Greetings and welcome, everybody, to the Beers and Bodyslams podcast. Sitting across from me is the luscious dew that runs down the bottle of my beer. Good old JB.
That is the most disgusting thing you've ever said.
Dew. Sitting to my left is my mint julep, Mr. Fluffy.
Mint julep.
And
nice.
sitting across from me is the fashion in my old fashioned Irish.
We have got a great show for you. We're going to be talking about one of our favorite wrestlers, if not one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Just kidding. I threw that in there to see if they would react. Anyway, we've got an amazing beer, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your busy week to listen to this little podcast. We're going to be breaking all that down when we come right back. Awesome!
This is the Beers and Bodyslams podcast.
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
With your host, Mr. Fluffy.
Hello, ladies.
Good old JB.
Booty-O's! They make sure you ain't booty.
And the Irish O'Leary.
There's only one word to describe you, and I'm gonna spell it out for you. A-A-W-S-T!
This is the only podcast bringing you craft beer and pro wrestling that really matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, D-Generation X proudly brings to you its WWF Tag Team Champion of the World, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, the Badass Billy Gunn, the New.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
This week's beer is phenomenal. Fluffy, what are we drinking?
We are drinking from the Southern Tier Brewing Company.
In the Southern Tier.
The Southern Tier, which is a New York brewery out of Lakewood, New York, in the eastern part of the state, or western part of the state. It is part of their Blackwater series. It is their chocolate orange. How do you say that? Orange? It's not the orange.
Yeah, it's not
orange.
chocolate either.
Yeah, it's like chocolate. It's chocolate orange. It's an imperial stout with chocolate, orange peel, and natural flavors. I always wonder about natural flavor. What is a natural flavor?
I don't know.
I'm assuming it's vanilla. I have no idea.
I think there is some vanilla in there.
Yeah. But it's part of their specialty series. I've had these before. Blackwater is sort of their experimental, let's see what we can do series. 10% stout. It is amazing. It's a very
so good.
It reminds me a lot of that orange that seems like grandma always gives you for Christmas every year, where you unwrap it and
candies.
it's the chocolate orange and it's already pre-sliced and it looks like a slice. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of that, but it's really, really, really good.
Man,
I'm enjoying
I like that one.
It's good. It's got this nice chocolate tone, and you got a little bit of that orange. This is probably the best beer I've had all day, buddy.
Yeah, it's very good.
For those of you who don't know, we record 2 shows a day, which is why this second show, which is the one you're listening to now, is usually the loosest show that we do.
Yeah, we usually have fun with this one, and this is this was I will say this was JB's pick this week.
Yes.
Good job.
And you did a good job. I like
Thank
it
you very
lot.
much.
I like it.
Stepping my beer game up one day at a time.
right.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Killing
So,
it.
all right. So this week we are talking about the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, the Lionheart,
The man of 1,001 holds.
the GOAT, Chris Jericho.
Hashtag Sparkle Crocs.
Drink it in, man.
Drink it in,
Drink it in,
man. We're going to talk a little bit about his history, where he came from, where he started, kind of go our memories of him developing. And then at the end, we'll talk about the normal, who is he? Where does he go? I'm not even going to ask the question if he's a Hall of Famer, because that's clearly already been answered
obvious.
Yeah, God.
multiple times. But Jericho's a great performer. He has been an amazing performer in the moment he showed up. And he's one of those guys that, he's part of that Canadian contingent, came from Canada. He had an athletic background from his father, who used to be a hockey player with the Rangers. So he already had that experience of being on the road. He talks about that too, and that's why he thinks he developed so quickly, because he was on the road with his dad once in a while.
Yeah.
So you understood that locker room mentality and what it's like to be part of a team. And he just went out there and proved he could do it. A smaller guy, a guy that, 20 years ago when he broke in, everybody went, "You're too small, kid. You're too little. You can't do this," and proved everybody wrong at every step of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the first time that I was aware of Chris Jericho, back watching the old WWC Monday Night Wars, WCW, sorry. WCW.
It's a beer.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, when he came over, I know we're kind of jumping around, but when we started the whole Y2J thing, I was so blown away. And then he has that great run, and then he goes away. He does the Fozzy thing, and then he comes back and he reinvents himself, and then he goes away, and then he comes back and he reinvents himself. And he's like, this is a horrible analogy, but he's like the opposite of John Cena. John Cena is the same today, yesterday, 10 years ago. He's kind of the same. He's matured, yes, but he hasn't really changed. He's still wearing the jean shorts. He's still wearing the T-shirts.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, Jericho you could tell the era that Jericho is in by this haircut, what he's wearing to the ring. You know,
he's evolved. He's definitely reinvented himself more times than any wrestler I can think of.
Yeah,
well, and he's also stepped up his game. I mean, he gets better. He's one of those guys that has gotten better with age.
Yeah,
because he understands what he can do at his age. He's not now trying to do what he was doing 20 years ago.
Exactly.
He's not as high of a flyer. Now he's more of a technician, ground and pound submission wrestlers. In the early days, he was more, I'd jump in your face.
Right.
I remember when he first started with ECW. I remember watching his he was only there for like a year.
Yep.
But I remember his ECW matches. There were some great matches in there with like Taz and Rob Van Dam and some of those that he really proved that he could really hang with the big guys in every way.
He's actually on my list, and it's a good thing. He's one of my top 5 favorite performers of all time.
Oh, wow.
By far. I remember WCW days, even when he was with Ralphus back in the old WCW.
Those were the days. Ralphus.
He made me laugh, man. He was always entertaining, and I just took a liking to him very early in his career. I didn't really catch him in ECW too much back then.
He wasn't there long. That
but
was
his
the thing.
WCW days is when I really took a liking to him, and I followed him ever since. And like I said, he keeps reinventing himself, and he remains relevant to this day after all these years. Is amazing to me.
Yeah, there was a lot of matches that I would watch him in WCW. I didn't catch a lot of his ECW career either, but watched Chris Jericho was the big deal, and he was so great. And then when he turned heel, and he started cutting those promos, like the one that went over the commercial break, where
the man of 1,004 holds.
1,004 holds, you know, arm bar kept coming up, and he had some amazing matches with, Guerrero and Dean Malenko, especially that whole feud with Malenko.
X-Pac and all that.
Yeah, that Malenko feud, which is where that man of 1,004 holds came from.
Yeah. Mysterio.
Just so good.
And he was really the guy that really pushed, at that point, was a new kind of wrestling on major TV. It wasn't new wrestling. I mean, Cruiserweights were around forever, but it was really new on that. And that's what made WCW Nitro so unique, was the Cruiserweights at that point.
Yep.
And he was really the first megastar they had.
Yeah.
He transcended that division, and he, I think, paved the way for the guys like the Benoits and the Guerreros who were before him. But he showed what can be done, and they followed him after, and he helped pave the trail that they all started running down and made it wider at that point. But he really proved that you could be a small guy.
Yep.
If you can talk, if you can take a beating and give a beating, you're fine in this industry. And you don't have to be 350 pounds of solid muscle to be a superstar in the sport.
How many guys that are not WC or WWF guys from back in the day can come over and literally they threw the whole machine behind him for him to beat Stone Cold and The Rock in the same night?
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. It's crazy.
It's a testament to how good he is.
Well, and his WCW days were kind of marred by the fact that he was held back by WCW. I mean, when he left, he left, he admitted he left for a reason. But it shows that we're talking about when he came into 1999 is when he showed up in WWE and WWF at the time. And when he showed up, it showed that even they were changing the mentality. Because how many guys do you know that were basically B players the most at WCW that were being held back, would show up on their first night and take on The Rock?
Yeah, and hold his own.
And hold his own.
Oh yeah.
And the buildup, I remember the clock countdown. Like I
The
remember
greatest gimmick they've had in.
it would just all of a sudden would just show up at random times throughout the show and just count down and then go away.
Yeah.
And then come back and go away. And when it went to 0 and he showed up, I mean, it was insane.
And that was a turning point too. Like you'd mentioned, that was a big turning point for WWE because right after that, then you have the Radicals show up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you start seeing, the
Eddie
rise of Eddie Guerrero and
Chris Benoit.
He who shall not be named. I mean, you start having guys like that come over. And, like Dean Malenko was never going to be a huge star because I don't think it's because he couldn't talk. I just don't think that was his deal. He's just a pure out and out wrestler.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't fit the product.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you've got guys like Guerrero who could. And then, guys like, let me ask you this question. Would we have as big a star of Rey Mysterio Jr. if we had not had
we wouldn't
Chris
have
Jericho?
we wouldn't have a Seth Rollins and a Kevin Owens if we didn't have a Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Those guys directly can feed all the way back to Jericho in every way.
AJ Styles.
Yeah.
AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, all these guys, you can land them back to Jericho because Jericho showed that you can do anything. That size does not matter. I look at Jericho sometimes like that scrappy dog, and I've heard the analogy for them before. Is if he barks loud enough, he gets attention, and that's what Jericho did. And Jericho would bark loud enough with his mouth or just in the ring. I mean, God, he had incredible matches. I mean, he had amazing matches with Chyna.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't make sense because you're like, she's strong and she wasn't the greatest person in the world in the ring, but she was good. But God, he had good matches with Road Dogg one-on-one. He had good matches with The Rock. I mean, before he became huge, I mean, when he first got there, he had some incredible moments. One of my favorite tag teams is when him and the Big Show were a tag team, and I can't stand the Big Show. The Jericho was a great team because Jericho was able to elevate the Big Show by offsetting Show's downfall in what he couldn't do and magnetize what Jericho could do, and it worked.
Yep.
It worked in every way.
Yeah, Jericho's always been amazing at putting over other talent. And my favorite person that he ever put over, hands down, to this day, is one Stephanie McMahon.
Oh, God.
The verbal gymnastics that both of those characters played. Yeah,
trash bag.
So amazing. The things that he said were,
my God.
At the time they were horrible. They're still pretty harsh by today's standards, but even at the time were pretty harsh, even for the Attitude Era. But when she had her surgery and he was showing the before and after pictures.
Oh my God.
That was just because we were all thinking it. And that was one of those moments where kayfabe was kind of like, we're going to skirt it just a little bit because we were all thinking it because one day she was this and the next day she was this.
Yeah. And he really pointed out, like his thing is he would go out there and say the things we all wanted to say and would make it hysterical. I remember one of the promos he cut, one of the famous promos with him and The Rock when it was Stephanie and Rhino in the ring. And the lines, and again, I would love to know, this is one of those moments, I'd love to know if it was his line or the writer's line. When you come up with lines like, look, it's the man beast and the hose beast. And you're like, was that written for him? Did he run that on the fly? Like, where did that come from? And the way he did it. And like JB said, he has one of the distinctions that will never be topped. He became the first ever undisputed champion, which he will never let go, which you shouldn't let go.
No.
And at Vengeance in December of 2001, he beat Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock in the same evening.
It shocked the hell out of me.
No one saw that coming.
And I was marking out for that.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's one of my favorites. And, it's ironic that he came over there to WWF at the time because WCW refused to have him do a squash match against Goldberg.
Yeah.
So that was the entire reason for him even coming over there, and that was kind of like the end for him over there. And he's taken the ball and ran with it ever since.
It's just been an amazing career. I mean, and even you look at him being that champion. And at that time, you figure The Rock and Stone Cold were the two biggest guys in the sport.
No, yeah.
So for Vince to put that on Jericho, and I think that was when, and sometimes I think that's the problem we have now is that was the unpredictability during these early 2000s. Even though WCW was gone at this point, they still had that mentality that we had to shake things up. They couldn't just sit on the laurels. And I wish they would bring some of this stuff back. And Jericho really served that purpose well of saying, look, I'm going to take out your two biggest guys. And all of that is, I'm going to make it look good. I'm going to show to you that I can do whatever I want. He was great as a champion.
What is he? He's what's the longest? Had the Intercontinental title.
He has the most. He has the most. He has the most Intercontinental title reigns ever. I'll bring up his
6-time world champion.
Yeah, he has held more titles. I'm looking at his titles: undisputed champion 1 time, heavyweight champion 3 times, WCW world champion twice, Intercontinental 9 times.
Wow,
9
times.
times. European 1, hardcore 1, 5-time tag team champion.
Wow, I don't even remember him being a hardcore champion.
Yeah, well, everybody was hardcore champion at least once. But when you look at his tag, actually it was 7-time tag team champions. There's 2 different tag team champions, but these are the people he was tag team champions with, especially the world title: Chris Benoit, The Rock, Christian, Edge, and The Big Show.
Oh, wow.
That's an amazing group of guys to say, I held the tag team titles with these guys. That would anybody would kill for that kind of stat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the feuds he's had, though.
Oh, yeah.
He's always been with the top guys. The Triple H's, the Shawn Michaels, the Rocks, the Stone Colds. And he didn't fit the mold of what a Vince McMahon heavyweight champion looked like when he got there. But he came in, and from that, I remember that night he debuted in Chicago.
It was crazy.
And, he was the Ayatollah rock and roller, and him and The Rock, they just set it on fire.
Yeah.
And they literally just went back and forth for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was the greatest thing. I had goosebumps. Like, I felt like I was there.
And it was nice to have somebody that could go toe to toe with The Rock.
Yeah.
On his own terms,
And not back off and not in any way push it. He just kept killing it. But he's had amazing feuds with The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Triple H's, Batista. Okay, Jericho has posed one of the most painful moments in wrestling history I've ever known of. And at the time, he didn't realize it happened. But afterward, no, that was the moment where Triple H ripped his quads.
Yes.
And then Jericho put him in the walls. Now, at the time, when you're watching the match, you're like, oh, that looks like it. Wow. Triple H is really selling this. That looks like it really hurts.
It looks like it really, really hurts.
And we found out later,
it really
hurts.
hurt.
My God, it hurts. Now, I will say this, though. Jericho is great in that he's willing to be an awesome person. And he's willing to, how do I put it? He's willing to put some people over that doesn't look great. For example, he lost to Fandango at WrestleMania.
That was bad.
But that's the joy of Jericho, though, that he knows he's not above the sport.
Exactly.
And he's willing to go, all right, fine. Because how many guys at that point in his career would go, you want me to lose to a guy that dances out?
Yeah.
All right. Most people are like, no way in hell am I losing to Fandango.
Well, the fact that at that time he was on tour and he wasn't full time, so he really didn't
matter.
No, clearly a lot of guys have egos.
Doesn't matter.
But for him, he's always seemed to put the business over himself.
Yeah.
So he's always done, what's best for business.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
That and he's elevated his career and his music is good. I like Fozzy. Fozzy's fun. He does stuff outside, and that's why I like him because he brings in a different audience at times. I remember one time, and this will go back to a personal experience. I actually got to see Fozzy when they first started. They recorded part of the DVD for Jericho here in Orlando at the Hard Rock, and they were giving out free tickets. And it was right when Fozzy started, and it was when Jericho wasn't actually in Fozzy.
Yeah.
He was Mongoose McQueen.
Yeah.
Right.
But he looked like Jericho. So it was that weird, oh no, I'm not Chris Jericho, I'm Mongoose McQueen. So they did this weird taping of a Fozzy concert to put in the Chris Jericho, that Jericho was helping this band get along because he knew Mongoose McQueen. But I got to watch Jericho go out there and be a rock star. For 2 hours, they filmed this concert. It was and he's good at it.
Yeah, he really is actually.
Yeah, I think he's really gotten that nice balance between things that I love, rock and roll, writing. His stuff, his books are amazing.
His podcast is good.
Now he's podcasting and killing it at the Talk is Jericho. And then he does wrestling. He comes in, he kills it for a year or two, and then he goes away for a little while, and then he comes back and one of his, I think it was like his second or third return. And he was doing the I'm going to save you from yourselves.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, kind of like the Legend Killer thing that was going on with Randy Orton. But just going through and just destroying people. And, let's just be honest. Not only does he have a good balance between the passions, wrestling and the rock and roll and the writing and the podcasting and stuff, he created possibly one of the second greatest TV shows ever with,
You have
the highlight reel.
Oh, the highlight reel. Yeah,
reel.
true.
Yeah. I mean, Piper's Pit is
Jared
number one.
Tron 6000.
Yeah.
Now it's a 6500.
6500 now.
It's not a 60. He's upgraded it like
Yeah.
4 or 5 times.
Well, he had to because he pretty much destroyed the one with Shawn Michaels' face.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is capable of doing those kind of interviews, and maybe they're a little drawn out nowadays. But back in the day, he could really work it, and he still does great. Not only putting over the people he's talking to, but pulling the crowd into it, like the stuff he's doing.
He made a
with
plant
Owens now. Yeah,
he made a plant popular. He made Mitch the Plant.
Yeah.
It was a prop on the set that wasn't supposed to go anywhere.
trend on Twitter.
Yeah.
Trend on Twitter, Mitch the Plant.
Mitch the Plant.
I mean, that's the power of Jericho.
Hashtag
Yeah, and
miss you,
he's,
Mitch.
and what he's doing now with the whole KO thing, and even on the KO thing, the whole list. The list is hysterical. Like I know I want to be on the list. I think you guys want to be on the
I
list.
tweet him every day. To get him
I
trying to get on the
just
list.
want to be on the list. Like my greatest joy would be to get a response back and go, "You're on the list for wanting to be on the
know.
list." Okay, please. It's the greatest thing ever. And what's good is that he understands his limitation. Like you watch his matches now, like I said, and you see he understands what he can do. And he has like his match a couple weeks ago with Rollins when he was trying to get into the main event for the triple threat, and he didn't win it, but he looks good. And he's not a guy who his skills have fallen so far that he can't hold his own.
Right.
We're looking at you, Big Show. But we'd love to have you on the show.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd
Good,
love
nice save.
Yeah, but he understands what he can do, and he's also really good at talking still. Like the whole stuff he's doing with KO now, and the whole "he's my best friend," and the scarf. How can one man make a scarf relevant? He has taken we're all going to admit there is no way that scarf is expensive as he says it is. It's a $20 scarf from Walmart, but he has turned it into a $1,000
That's
item.
hilarious.
Yeah. And, my respect for Jericho went up, 6 months ago? He was wrestling Neville, and Neville had that in-ring injury when he twisted his ankle or something. The whole thing with that match was just amazing because, you saw Neville legit get hurt, and I can't remember who was the ref. Was it Little Nate?
Yeah.
Robinson? And he kept trying to keep things moving along, and Jericho just got in his face and said he's hurt. Legitimately, you can hear him screaming on the microphone.
He's hurt.
He's one of those guys that, yes, he will wrestle his brains out, tells a great story, but he protects the team, like you said earlier. I mean, he went to bat, and he knew he was on TV. He's on live TV.
Yeah.
And still, he had to protect Neville, and Neville was trying, but he was legitimately hurt. And I just thought that was neat. And it was also brilliant because what he did was he took the attention off of Neville while they were attending to him, and all the cameras were on him yelling at Robinson.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
The other thing is this late into his career, I think one of the matches that was interesting was he's still getting title opportunities. For example, Extreme Rules, he going to get CM Punk in a street fight.
Yep.
Had a great match. He's had great matches with even the newer guys. Del Rio, CM Punk. Him and Enzo and Kaz are really good together. Like he's really good at that thing. And he's not a person that has shied away from controversy. There was the incident with the Brazilian flag.
Whoops.
I would not know that if I went to Brazil and kicked the flag that's basically a federal offense. I wouldn't know that, and I traveled quite a bit, and you travel quite a bit, and I don't think Jericho travels more than we do. But he never lets it get him down. Like at that point where he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." He just went, "All right, well, it happened. Move on. Let's go."
Right.
And he keeps going. What I also think is very great about him is that he has become undependent on wrestling, and I think that's made him better. He's got his podcast. He's got Fozzy. So he's not depending on this to be his sole purpose. And I think it's added to him in a way that it allows him to open up a little bit and not have to worry about, if this doesn't go well, what am I going to do? He's like, well, screw it. If this doesn't go well, I'm just going to leave for him 6 months and come back.
Right. He's got options. And that's what
totally.
And that's what a lot of the younger wrestlers who I look at a guy like a TJ Perkins. Okay, so TJ Perkins started when he was in his high school years, and now he's been in the business almost 20 years, and he's like 28, something like that. I mean, he's been in it quite a while. Let's say, God forbid, something horrible happens to TJ Perkins. What does he do?
Yeah, he's got nowhere to go.
But you look at somebody like a John Cena, you look at somebody like an Edge who's left the business and started pursuing acting. Even Cody Rhodes, who is in, as we record this, he's in this week, which as you listen to it, will probably be last week's episode of Arrow.
Yeah, he was in Arrow.
I mean, he's starting to pursue some acting stuff. Jericho doesn't have to wait. He's already done that. He's done a lot of the stuff like when VH1 was doing a lot of their pop video.
He did Best Week Ever a lot.
He did
I love
a
the
lot
80s.
of that. So he's got some notoriety. Plus, he's just legitimately funny. He's done a lot of game shows.
Yeah,
hosting as well as being on them. So he's got marketability because he is a pro wrestler and he can talk.
the other thing he can do is and no offense against Foley in writing, he's the best writer. His books, his 3 books, including The Lion's Tale and the other 2 that came out afterwards, are an amazing read. If you're a wrestling fan and you have not read Jericho's books, I like the Foley books. They're good. The Jericho books are amazing.
Right.
Because he really does break down his career and break down things. So he is a best-selling author, topping the charts, multiple-time world champion. You're right. He's been on TV. He's been on so many different TV shows, and he gets invited back to stuff because he's fun. Right. And he's not obnoxious about it.
So where do you think he's going to go? I mean, obviously we think in this current iteration, he's probably going to get a run at Kevin Owens with the championship. You think they'll put the belt on him for a little while?
I think if he does, it may be a last run. But I don't know how long he's going to go for. I thought he was done 2 years ago. I'll admit, I thought he was ready to retire. And he's better now than he was 2 years ago. So I'm not quite sure how long he has left in him.
I think that's DDP yoga, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Oh, he talks about it. He's talked about it before on his podcast. He says that revitalized his career completely.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is the yoga. I think a lot of it is being able to reinvent himself in such a way that he's resonating more now. And let's be honest, he's getting a little bit of rub off of Kevin Owens.
Oh, yeah.
That's not hurting.
No.
But going back and touching on things like, the feud with Stephanie, that's not hurting him either. And when all this stuff transpires and we figure out what's going on with Triple H and the authority role and all that good stuff, there'll be a component with Jericho because they're teasing it really hard right now.
Yeah, I think Jericho's future is that I think he steps out of the ring in the next few years, but he's never going away.
I hope not. I'd love for him to call matches.
Yeah, I could see him calling matches. I could see him working with NXT guys.
Oh, yeah.
I could see him going to town. He lives in Tampa, so it's not like he lives far away from Orlando.
Yeah, that's true.
So he could easily come in every so often. I know they're already having Shawn Michaels there doing promo and finishing classes. You imagine Jericho going in there and doing promo classes or just how to survive in the business.
Nothing against Bill DeMont, but God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a guy that has survived in this business through every horrible thing that could happen.
That is true.
And you think about it, he hasn't been injured a lot. You tell me, he does what he wants. He doesn't get injured. He understands what he's doing. And I think he's doing great work right now. It's not the greatest work he's done, but he's amazing right now, and he's still relevant. And what I like about it is he's still bringing in new fans. I see people in the crowd when I'm watching Raw, people that are 14, 12, wearing Chris Jericho t-shirts.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Because I remember Jericho, my biggest problem with Jericho always was, at first, I felt like he held the chip too high on his shoulder. Like, I'm the small guy. I'm going to do it. Now I've realized over time and maturing myself that chip is what made him great.
Yeah.
As long as he got rid of the ponytail when he first came in.
I kind of like the ponytail.
Oh my God. When he had that stupid little thing on top of his head. It was horrible.
It was the
top ponytail.
Yeah.
Like a fountain hair.
We always called it the, what did we call it? What was the Pebbles? We called it the Pebbles look.
It looked like he had
Pebbles from Flintstones.
He had a hair fountain. He had a hair fountain. It was like his fountain was going on.
And you know that he would have a man bun if he had long hair today. He'd be a man bun.
Oh, he would totally be a man bun guy. He would be a man bun. He would be wearing it around. He'd be talking about it. He'd be talking to Kevin Owens about how tight his man bun. Oh, that shouldn't say that. Strike that. I don't want to talk about how tight his man bun is.
Tell you how tight my. You know how tight my man bun is?
Oh,
it's tight.
But he is, and I'm not even going to get in the whole, is he a Hall of Famer? There's no question.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he goes in, the minute he walks out of the ring completely, they put him in instant. He's the following year, and he's a headliner of that class.
I don't know. I think you'd probably give him a 5 year hiatus to bring him back.
Really?
To pop it, yeah. Because they didn't put The Rock in, like, immediately.
True. But he goes in, he's the headliner of that class, though.
Yeah, probably.
There's no question about it.
Yeah, let me ask you this crazy question.
What?
Who inducts Chris Jericho into the WWE Hall of Fame?
Dean Malenko.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Benoit can't do it.
No, Benoit can't do it.
Sorry. That was
because
horrible.
and I say this because the WWE seems to have a tendency, if they like to bring in, that's one thing they do. They'll bring in people that are obscure sometimes to bring in somebody.
Yeah.
And if you're going to bring somebody in, I think it's Malenko. I really do think it's Malenko because he had the longest history with him. And the problem is the other two guys that had the longest history with him are Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. And
wait a minute. Are you trying to say that Chris Jericho is killing pro wrestlers?
No, but obvious reason. You could say, yeah, it's got to be Malenko. Or okay, there is one other person. And I'm scrolling.
Ralphus?
No, not Ralphus.
I could bring Ralphus back if he's still alive.
Why are you going to bring Ralphus back? That's all horrible.
Nice. He could wear like the the tuxedo T-shirt and have the little belly hanging out.
The only other person it could be is Lance Storm.
Lance Storm?
Lance Storm has been his friend.
Pardon me. Let me be serious for just a moment.
Well, but Lance Storm and him have been connected since they were training together. They trained together to be a wrestler. They have been the longest. He is his longest wrestling friend. So I would say Lance Storm or Dean Malenko were the two that you could possibly do it. But that's it. There's no one else I can think of that would be relevant to that way.
The only other person I can think of would be Paul Heyman. Heyman could do it because of his ECW career. The only other person I might think of would be, maybe like a Rey Mysterio, but he's no longer with the company.
Yeah, so there's too much politics there.
Stephanie would be a bad choice, but she's with the company.
Well, the problem with Stephanie bringing him in is they do try when they bring in somebody in Hall of Fame, they do have to have some relevance to their entire career.
Yeah.
And as much as Stephanie was a big part of that, I think they try to be more. They try to treat the Hall of Fame ceremony sometimes like it's an actual Hall of Fame ceremony in real.
What?
Which
it's
I
not
wish
real?
I wish they would stop that.
Build a building, then it'll be real.
Yeah, that come to Orlando, build us a building, and we'll believe it. And don't make. And by the way,
shining star of the Central Florida.
And by the way, don't induct 9 people and make each speech 4 hours, and I'll watch more often.
Oh my gosh!
What? What are you smelling? You smelling the beer?
We're drinking this amazing chocolate orange from Southern Tier.
You smelling the glass? Why are you smelling the glass?
Smell it.
Okay, I'm gonna smell the glass. Hold on.
Does it smell like?
This is great podcast, by the way.
I know. I got a point.
It smells like a chocolate bar.
It smells like a cigar to me.
This is amazing podcasting.
Well, I mean, look at this. Does this look affected to you?
No, I will say this Southern Tier Chokolat Orange is amazing. I really like this.
So good.
The ever-present JB.
Yes. Good old JB.
Good old JB brought this as beer. This is really, really good.
Yeah.
It was really good. But I think with Jericho, he's had the career that you look at as the prototypical what you can do if you put in the effort career.
Yes.
Like if you're a young wrestler, if you're 15 years old and you're going to your first wrestling school, you look at Chris Jericho and go, look, I can do this if I put the work in. Because he's always put the work in. Jericho has always been supposedly one of those guys he's in the production meetings. He's in the gym. He works with the old guys. He works with the new guys. He works with whoever he needs to make himself better. And I think that's what makes Jericho great. And that's what makes a long-term wrestler is that he's willing to sacrifice his own ego to find out what he needs to do to make himself great again.
Right. He's got the same issue with all the greats.
Yeah.
They come in early, they leave late.
Yep.
They put the time in, they sit with the boys and girls in the back and they watch the shows and they talk about it. And he, I've heard that he gives good advice.
Yep.
And he's great in communicating what makes other wrestlers great. He puts over wrestlers for the most part. I've not heard a story where he buries anybody.
Nope.
So I think that, when we put our list together of great wrestlers, we knew that we wanted to talk about Jericho for all of these reasons and so many more. Not the least of the reasons where he's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
He's always been fun to watch. There was a stretch for a while there where he wasn't, but he found a smile, so to speak. And he's just a joy, even though he mixes kooky with legit wrestling, and it makes it entertaining and fun.
Well, I think he mixes in. He brings in arrogance in a way that makes it interesting. He's not a cocky, oh, I don't like him because he's cocky. You watch him going, I love Jericho. Why? She's cocky. It's that he makes it funny. He makes it comical.
Yeah.
And he makes it light, but he's dead serious. He's one of those guys where if he says something, you're like, ooh, that's evil. And then he goes out and proves it.
You know why he's successful?
Because he's got it?
Because he's got
it. That's right.
That's right. You are correct.
That's right. What do you think of Chris Jericho? Tell us. Tell us all. Drink it in. Tell us everything you want to know about Chris Jericho. Drink it in, man.
We're giving you the gift of Jericho, and he's not even in the building.
I know, but we'd love to have him on the show.
Yeah, literally.
To retort our conversation of how great he is.
He would give us so much unmitigated hell.
Oh my God, I would love to be on the list, though, just to hear about it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If you want to tell us what you think, go to Facebook and Beers and Body Slams podcast on Facebook. You can tell us what you think. You can also follow us on Twitters and Beers Body Slams because we were too drunk to remember the end in the first place.
That's right. You can also find us over at beersandbodyslams.com. And while you're there, why don't you click on the High Spots link? You can go visit High Spots. They're your source for wrestling apparel, shoot videos, and video collections from all over the world. Find some really cool wrestling stuff there. And when you click on that from our website, it drops a little cookie onto your computer. It doesn't hurt your computer at all. And what they do
is it chocolate chip?
It's not chocolate chip. It's more like a Thin Mint. And they kick back a few pennies for us. That helps us buy beer and hosting.
And beer.
And things for the studio.
And then also, when you're ready to put your beer down,
you silly beer,
make sure you go to vintagepressing.com. They have coasters, luggage tags, and phone cases to make you look unique. I know they're working on some wrestling themed stuff for our listeners, so check out that soon.
And if you want to follow all of us on the Untapped app on your Google Android phone or your Apple iOS phone, you can find me at The Irish O'Leary. You can find good old JB at Good OLJB. And you can find our illustrious leader at Mr. Fluffy.
If you want to watch me slowly kill myself with beer.
As he kills his liver one drink at a time.
Oh, God. But tell us what you think of Chris Jericho. Check it out. And always, remember, keep your pint glasses full and your body slam stiff.
You've been listening to the Beers and Body Slams podcast. Find us online at beersandbodyslams.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Beers and Body Slams podcast. Until next time.
Have a nice day.